Hello fellow planters. So in this video I'm going to be talking a little bit about iridescent plants. It's something I recently got a nice fascination for, and I've been starting to try and acquire some. Some of them are practically impossible to find in cultivation and others are readily available. So before I begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button and keep up with all my upcoming videos. So you have different kinds of plants, even common ones that are iridescent, and not all these here are iridescent. I just have some to show you something similar in nature. And the reason being is some of these plants, there aren't any readily available photos even online. And if there are, then you have to worry about copyright by using the photos unless it's a royalty-free image, or it's a Creative Commons license or something like that. So I'm going to be mostly naming them, and then it will be up to you, if you're intrigued by them, to go and research what they look like and if it's a plant you can find to add to your collection if it's something you like. But one of the most commonly available iridescent plants are some types of begonias. There are several different varieties of begonias and many hybrid begonias as well that display iridescence. Here I have a miniature begonia, and you have a couple miniature begonia species that have some iridescence, including Begonia limprichtii, if I pronounce it right. And then I have it in a terrarium just so that I don't have to worry, because some of the more iridescent begonias do like higher humidity. And until I repot these, I want to make sure they're happy plants. So to start with, I have a Begonia Pavovina, and as you can see, it doesn't really display much iridescence. And the reason being is they grow better in brighter light, but it's when you have lower light conditions. Now, not too low, you don't want to kill the plant. And that's when a lot of the iridescent plants, but not all, will develop their nice iridescent sheen to them. And some people theorize that the reason is to try and capture more lighting. But here's my problem with that. A lot of iridescent plants are mostly going to be on the bluer side. Some may be lightly red or green, but most iridescent plants are iridescent in blue. And as light gets filtered through the forest, the shorter wavelengths get scattered first, just like the shorter wavelengths of light coming from the sun. Although light doesn't really travel per se, it's not a particle, but that's for a discussion on another video, another channel of mine or something. Anyway, the blue light consequently gets scattered first, and that's why the sky is blue, but when the sun is lower in the horizon, there's more atmosphere before we receive the illumination from the sun. That's a better way to put it in reality. And so the sky turns red because now you have the red wavelengths being scattered. So consequently, claiming that the specialized chloroplasts, which some people refer to as iridoplasts, start to be more prominent in lower light conditions to make them iridescent blue in the direction at which the illumination's hitting the leaf from. The reality is, I don't buy that, because the leaves are green typically on plants because they reflect green light and absorb blue and red. So here you're saying they're reflecting blue light when they're not receiving much in the first place. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, so in lower light conditions, this will be a beautiful, like, metallic blue sheen. And I've seen some videos online, you may want to look them up. Just a gorgeous plant. It's also known as a Peacock Begonia. Now you have a hybrid, and this one didn't come in the healthiest of conditions, but it is recovering in here, and I did have to salvage some dying leaves. But let me just dump that in there for now. But this is a Begonia taconite, so if you like tacos, this may be the one to get. I read that these can regrow each year outside from zone 7, so I may try some that I've propagated, or that I'm propagating. And this too in a darker condition will, lower light but not really dark, where you kill the plant, will have some nice iridescence. And this is supposed to be one of the most beautiful of the iridescent begonias. So now, moving on from the realm of iridescent begonias, and I'm just going down basically as much as I can down alphabetical order, and I try to research what I could find. There are plenty of other iridescent begonias I haven't mentioned though, but I did find a large amount of iridescent plants, and I don't know if any reference out there, nice book you can get on them. But if you do know of any, please leave a comment. I'd love to know about it. So anyway, moving on, now we get to a plant called an Elaphoglossum. I do not have a picture of them, but they have nice leathery leaves, and you have so many different varieties of Elaphoglossums, but the ones that are leathery leaves that I'm talking about that are iridescent you can find this one more common in cultivation. It's the Ilafoglossum metalicum. But then you also have Ilafoglossum herminieri, and then there's one called the Ilafoglossum Verdekai. And the Ilafoglossum Verdekai, it grows in shady spots under rock hanging overs and outcrops on the tepuis of Venezuela, so it requires, higher humidity than what most people have unless you keep it in a dome and stuff, and slightly cooler temperatures that you find up in the tepuis. So these are 3 different varieties of Elaphoglossums that I know of that have some iridescence to them. And then you get to the Microsorum, and you can sometimes find some Microsorums as well online for sale. And they're not the cheapest plant, but you can still find them, which is nice if you're trying to collect iridescent plants, and money's no object, although they're not prohibitively expensive. But you have the Microsorum siamensis, the Microsorum steeri, and the Microsorum thailandicum. And then we get to another type of iridescent plant called Selaginella. You have some species like the Selaginella uncinata, which is over here, called the peacock moss, and the Selaginella willdenovii. And those 2 are the most brilliant of the iridescent Selaginellas. I'm not sure if there are any other species. They might be the only 2, but the information I've found on iridescent plants is quite limited, so it's just having to do a little research, and maybe over time I'll be able to do an updated video with even more information. But if you look at the Selaginella uncinata, when you turn it to the light and away, you can see how some of the leaves along the blades of the leaves, will be greener in one angle and bluer in another. So hence you can see the beautiful iridescence, and it develops the iridescence in the shade like most iridescent plants. But this one is readily available, especially in the southeastern United States, and I read online that it's cold hardy to zone 6, so I'm going to be trying it outdoors sometime. Now, I did say I was going alphabetically in alphabetical order, but I did skip one species. So before I get to the last one I want to mention, let me get to the one I skipped, which is now the second to last one. You have orchids. And one species that I could find is a Gastrochilus somae. And it basically has iridescent dark green leaves, and I read that it's similar to a phalaenopsis in the way it looks. And here's a phalaenopsis orchid. These are the common orchid you find at any Lowe's, Home Depot, grocery store, wherever. So it's going to be like this, and this is a Dendrobium kingianum, and I'm just showing you how it's more like this style versus that, but I could not find much information on iridescent orchids at all, but there are some available, and that was the only species of orchid I could find, the Gastrochilus Gastrochilus somae online. So if there are any iridescent orchids you know of that would help me out, if you left a comment letting me know, that would be great. And now we get to the final species under this compilation of the plants I found that display iridescence. The species of Stegolepis, and most, if not all, of these Stegolepis plants display iridescence, with the most spectacular ones being that of Stegolepis lingulata and Stegolepis hitchcokii, both of which have nice electric blue sheens. And unlike the other iridescent plants, these display their iridescence growing in full sun. So as I explained, I do not believe that they develop iridescence to try and absorb more of the blue wavelength of light, because if they have that iridescence in lower light and blue light scatters first, they're going to want to absorb more blue light, not reflect it. So anyway, the interesting thing about the Stegolepis plants, like the Stegolepis hitchcokii, isn't that an interesting species, hitchcokii, is that you have these nice blades of leaves, and imagine a field there up on the tepuis that, I think there's only one tepui it's found on, but anyway, imagine being out there and watching the leaves like waving in the wind and the iridescent blue on them just shimmering in the sun. I'd love to do that. That's on my bucket list. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video on iridescent plants. If you know of any other species that I have overlooked, any genuses, or you have any info on any reference books that would be available, please let me know. Thanks for watching and happy planting!